Welcome to episode 3 of MMA MAT CHAT. I'm Fabian Stewart, and not a huge week in terms of MMA news and fights, but enough to talk about. So, got a bit of a list here of what I want to go through, and I guess we're going to start talking about the UFC on the weekend, which was a UFC fight night. Cory Sandhagen and Rob Font. In a largely what a lot of people are calling a disappointing main event. Firstly, it's great to not have a fight night at the fucking Vegas, the UFC Performance Center, which they've done way too many of. There wasn't any big names on the card other than Cory Sandhagen and Rob Font, and they're not massive names anyway. It was obviously supposed to be Cory Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov, but that was pulled. And Rob Font stepped up, I think, 3 weeks notice. And, that fight, well, Cory wrestled him. He wrestled him every single round and didn't do a lot of striking from the top and kind of wet blanketed him. But he said in his post-fight interview that he tore his tricep in the first round, and he had an issue with his tricep through his whole camp. He said 3 weeks out of the fight, he was on antibiotics. He did a second course of antibiotics to try and get the swelling down. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he had issues. I'll pause that right there. Okay, so my lighting tower just fell over, and we're going to go back. I don't even know where the fuck I was. So Cory Sandhagen, he had an issue with his elbow, and yeah, he had a bad camp, and he said in an interview, he said with Ariel Helwani on Monday, the reason he just wrestled him is because the disparity between him and Rob Font on the ground was much bigger than him and Rob Font striking. He still thinks he's better than both, but he thought that was the easier path to victory, and he was injured. He was compromised. And Cory Sandhagen is an exciting fighter. He has exciting finishes. He's got flying knees. He's got spinning back kicks, spinning wheel kicks. He's allowed it. He's allowed a fucking boring wet blanket fight. He's not one of the fighters that does this every single time. And I guarantee you in his next fight, he's not going to be doing this. So a good win for him. He's going to heal up. And he is surely going to get the next shot at the bantamweight title. That all depends on how Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley's fight goes, because if O'Malley wins, they'll probably just do Sandhagen and O'Malley. That will be a great fight. That's going to stay predominantly on the feet, and they're both very long rangey strikers. That'll be fun. The likelihood is probably Sterling's going to win that, and then Sterling is probably going to go up to 145, vacate the title, and let his friend Merab fight Sandhagen for the vacant belt. So I doubt if Sterling wins, he will stay and defend against Cory, because Merab is due a title shot, and it sucks because Aljamain could really have a chance at having the record for the most bantamweight defenses, but I think he already has with 3. There's not been any dominant champs that have defended the bantamweight title more than 3 times since it's been in the UFC, not when it was in the WEC. I think he's already at 3 title defenses, Sterling, so he could defend that a handful of times, set a record, break the record. But because his good pal Merab is due his title shot, he's going to move up, I think. So it'll probably be Sandhagen and Merab early next year, I would imagine, January, February, somewhere around that mark. But the crowd was booing him hard. They were on him, but whatever. They came to see fights. The other fights on the cards were exciting, so they can get fucked. It is what it is. You go to one of these events live, you want to see something that resembles Robbie Lawler versus my God, why can't I think of his name? Who went to Bellator afterwards. Jesus Christ, I'm blanking on that. It'll come back to me. But you want to see fireworks, and when he wrestles, it's not what they want. But boo-hoo. There were some other good fights on the card. Where is the card? I've got it here. Diego Lopez. He lost his first fight in the UFC, but he's got this really early 2000s emo front fringe, and he kind of gone viral. There's been a few like, "Where are you?" memes with him there. So he's got a bit more traction because of that, because he looks freaking like an emo kid from 15 years ago. Got kicked in the nuts as like 30 seconds into the fight, straight on the nuts. But then manages to get a triangle choke submission and win in round 1. So that was a good win for him. His stock goes up. Dustin Jacoby and Kennedy, I can never pronounce his name, Nzikukwu, something like that. The light heavyweights, they fought, and Dustin got a huge knockout in the first round. He ate one to just give one back, and he ate a good punch and just straight away returned and just knocked him out cold. And it's crazy the kind of power that he was able to generate after getting touched and just answering back. Like usually if you get clipped on the chin and then you throw one, but like in the same motion that you're throwing one back, you lose a lot of power on that shot. But that was not the case. So well done to him. There wasn't really too much else to talk about. Tatiana Suarez just utter domination over Jessica Andrade and submits her with a rear naked choke. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that card. Because then as soon as that card finished, the main event of the weekend, Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz in boxing was on. And I tuned in for that reluctantly, but I thought I have to see it, have to watch it. And well, it was fun. It was entertaining. The first round, Jake Paul just goes 100% and he's just hitting Nate with everything. And it really looked like he was going to get stopped. I was watching this like, oh my God, come on, Nate. Because everybody knows that Nate was going to get better as the round went on. The longer he could survive, the better he's going to do. And he looked really bad. Like it was amazing that he got out of that first round. The first 2-3 rounds, much the same. Jake Paul just hammering him, landing him with clean shots. Nate Diaz being Nate Diaz, looking slouchy, rolling with some shots, but having no real power to his shots. And then I think in the 4th round, Diaz was kind of getting a bit of momentum. And in the 5th round, Jake Paul knocked him down. He just hit him with a big right hand, hit him on the temple, and he kind of stumbled, fell through the ropes. He gets up, but Jake Paul wasn't able to put him away. And it's easy to look back on this now because Diaz he doesn't really get finished. He's got such a chin, and he still does. But he started clowning towards the end. He's turning his back to him, walking away, just doing classic Diaz stuff, and the crowd was eating it up. It was it was fun, and then sure enough, it goes the distance. Diaz won probably round 9 or 8. And in those later rounds, he looked better. Jake did look like he was gassing a little bit, but his cardio held up pretty well. Like he didn't gas that hard. And it was fun. That's all you can say. It's pretty much what you expected to happen happened. Jake Paul was a better boxer. He was crisp. Diaz, never known for being a boxer, got outboxed, had the gas tank to last and eat shots. And, kind of got a second win towards the end of the fight there. But ultimately, Jake Paul was the much better boxer. And Diaz, once again, as he has a habit of doing, won without winning. He lost, but he won in the fans' eyes. Like the Leon Edwards fight. He lost that fight, but he won in the fans' eyes because... he rocked Edwards in the last minute of that fight. Instead of following up, just flipped him the bird or pointed at him. And in this one, he got him with the guillotine even. Jake ducks under and he grabs him and he gets the guillotine and, kind of pulls on it. And Jake said in the post-fight press conference that he said it was tight. Like he fucking put it on properly. And it's just Nate Diaz doing what Nate Diaz loves to do and everybody eating it up. So... both of their stocks went up. I guess. I mean, for Jake Paul, he should have got a finish. If he finished Nate Diaz, it would have been much better for him. But he won. It's what he needed to do after losing to Tommy Fury. He still managed to knock down his opponents in every fight. So yeah, it was fine. And Nate Diaz survived. He had fun and he got paid. Apparently, he got paid between 15 to 20 million. So if that's the case, good for you. Good for you, Diaz. You deserve it. You were never going to make that money in the UFC. The UFC doesn't pay anyone that kind of money unless your name's Conor. But even for the Conor fight with Diaz, the second one, even I think he probably got a couple of million, 5 million max. Like he didn't get any more than that. No way. So if he got somewhere between 15 to 20 million, which is what I think Brian Campbell from Morning Combat reported, and he's usually pretty reliable. Good for you. Good for him. That's awesome. Get paid. It's not going to stop. Ex-UFC stars are going to keep boxing after. And it's the same thing that's going to happen. Like if Jake Paul just keeps fighting ex-UFC stars, they leave the UFC when they are past their prime, and then they box Jake Paul for fucking $15 million. They won't all get that money. Nate Diaz is a huge name, has a huge following, but they either way, they get him for more money than they get for a fight in the UFC. So of course they're going to do it, and of course they're going to look bad. And Jake Paul's never going to fight someone who's a boxer if they're an ex-UFC guy who is left after the height of their career. So it is what it is. It's fun, and the fucking MMA community will keep tuning in to watch Jake Paul fight, unfortunately, because that's what most of the crowd of Jake Paul's fights are, is the MMA fans tuning in because he's fighting MMA guys. So, yeah. What else was there? There was Contender Series on today. It was back for Season 7. Cesar Almeida, 35-year-old Brazilian, I believe. He is a kickboxing ex-kickboxing champion. He has had over 40 kickboxing fights, including a win over Alex Pereira. And now he went on the Contender Series. He looked good on the feet, and he wrestled. Held top control. Like his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling looked good. So he gets the contract, and it's like, yes, he's 35. He's middleweight, so they're a bit older as you get up that way. Maybe he can fight a light heavyweight too. But the fact that he's got a win over Alex Pereira it's kind of hilarious, because he has the chance to do what Pereira did with Izzy, which is get fast-tracked to a top 5 fight because there's that matchup. So if he can get 2 wins, maybe they match him up smartly, then you could straight away give him the best fight possible, that's top 5. And then if Pereira, maybe in the future, Pereira is the light heavyweight champ, or you could do a fight night with him and Pereira, or be on a massive pay-per-view card. Like, this guy has the chance of being rushed straight up the same way Pereira did. So, and it would be funny because it's exactly what Pereira's done to Izzy. Almeida has a chance to do to Pereira, and then maybe somebody who's beaten Almeida in kickboxing can come in and capitalize off that, and this should just keep going. But good for him. He looked good, and good that he had the ability to wrestle. He, good top control. Tom Nolan, an Aussie guy out of Brisbane, he got a first round finish. He looked crisp. He's a southpaw. He hit him. He dropped him with the left hand. They're on the ground. He stands him back up, says nah, and he drops him with another left hand. Gets a first round finish, and he looked fantastic. So he got a contract. Another Aussie. He's a lightweight. He's coming out of the Eternal scene, and he looked great. He looked crisp. Dana always says, it's so bad, but he says, this is the Dana White Contender Series. He decides who comes in. He says, I don't know anything about these fighters going into it. I sit there and I watch the fight. None of their, previous criteria matters. And it's like, well, that is so fucking stupid, firstly, because you should know what these fighters are doing before they get to the Contender Series. And he said that the guy, after the Almeida fight, he said that the guy next to him whispered in his ear, because he's like, he's 35 years old. We're not looking at getting 35-year-old contenders. And he says, this guy's got a big kickboxing career and a win against Alex Pereira. And then he goes, okay, yeah, we'll get him. But it's like, you should fucking know that. Like, you should read a little bit about these fighters, a little bit at least, before you go into it. But whatever, Dana White's Dana White. He's going to do whatever Dana White does. What else have we got? UFC 239 in Sydney has finally got a main event. This card is 5 weeks away, and it's almost sold out, and it didn't have a main event. And finally, we always knew Izzy was going to fight, but Dricus wasn't going to fight on this card, so they're just scrambling to get someone to fight Izzy, and Strawn Strickland has signed the paperwork. It is official. I hope they're paying him a lot, because, he's doing this on short notice. It'll be his 4th fight in 9 months, Sean. So I hope he's getting paid well, because he does the UFC a lot of favors and he deserves to be paid well. And 2 things are going to happen. Sean Strickland is going to annihilate Izzy in the press conference and in all the media. It is going to be hilarious. He is going to absolutely destroy him on the mic. And I can't wait to see it. Sean Strickland is hilarious. He's a comedian. He doesn't hold back. He doesn't give a fuck. And Izzy's cool, but sometimes he tries a bit too hard and it can be cringe. So I think when you put the 2 together, I think it's not going to make Izzy look good. But then you would rather be Izzy in that situation, because when they fight, Izzy is going to kick his ass. Sean Strickland's his best chance at a win here would be to wrestle him, but he's probably not. It's like when he fought Alex Pereira. If he went back in time for Alex Pereira and fucking shot single legs and got him to the ground, which he has the ability to do, he could win. But he says, no, I'm going to stand and kickbox with one of the best kickboxers in the world in 4-ounce gloves, and he got knocked out. And I think he's just gonna get picked apart by Izzy if he chooses to keep it on standing. And even if he does wrestle, Izzy's got good takedown defenses. I'm not guaranteeing that Sean could get it to the ground if he wanted to, but that's his best path to victory. The co-main for that card is Volkov and Tai Tuivasa. That's fine. It's probably the best matchup for Tuivasa in the top 10. Volkov's probably not going to wrestle him. And Tuivasa's got good hands, so we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. It could be fun. The rest of the cards just kind of stacked. There's Kai Kara-France fighting, but the rest of the cards just kind of Aussies. It's really appealing to the Aussie market, which they like to do because they make a lot of money when they come here, because we've got a good economy in Australia, so we fucking put the ticket prices at $500 and it still sells out. So it sold out before it even had a main event, which is I wish it didn't, because it means the UFC would have to put on better cards, but it is what it is. What else happened? UFC fighter Themba Gorimbo, who he lost his first fight. He's from Zimbabwe. Lost his first fight and then won his second fight in the UFC. He's a welterweight, and he famously said he had, in his post-fight press conference, said he had $7 in his bank account at that point in time, and his story went viral. He was sleeping on the floor at the gym. He trains at MMA Masters, I believe, which is where Colby Covington trains. And Colby Covington, being the nice guy that he is in real life, was buying him meals and stuff. It came out. Anyway, he was surprised by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson of all people, who bought him a fucking house. Yeah, he bought him a house. He saw his story, bought him a house, which is lovely because, what a gesture. Now he can just train, put all his time into training, doesn't have to worry about that. And trying to get his family over here from Zimbabwe. So that was nice of The Rock, and obviously The Rock put on his social media, so he gets something out of that, and he has so much money that a house is probably what he wipes his ass with. But it really put the spotlight on Themba Gorimbo because, he's going to have a lot of people watching his next fight to see if this guy is the real deal or not. And if he's not, it's not going to look fantastic. But hopefully he is. I will have to say, whoever fights him next has got a tough ass, because they're going to be the biggest heels in the world. Because you're going to have Dwayne Johnson and the whole fucking world rooting for Gorimbo here. So I don't know who's gonna fight next, or if he's even got a fight announced yet. But that guy better be he has the opportunity to be a really big heel. Let's just say that. What else? Dylan Dennis versus Logan Paul was announced. And not that I really give a shit, but it'd be funny just to see if it happens, because Dylan Dennis just fucking pulls out of everything. Apparently, I was reading that he has a $100,000 pull-out clause. If Dylan Dennis pulls out, he has to pay $100,000. But yeah, Dennis is fighting Logan Paul, and I don't really know how this is going to go. Don't really care. But because Dylan Dennis is a fantastic jiu-jitsu guy, and he's had 2 fights in Bellator where he won both of them by submission. He can fight MMA because he's fucking really high-level jiu-jitsu. How his boxing is, I don't know. He's been talking about having a boxing fight for a couple of years, so I'm sure he's been training. But I think he's smaller than Logan Paul for sure. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. It's going to be on the same card as the KSI Tommy Fury fight, so kind of a celebrity boxing fight, which there seems to be more and more of lately, and everybody keeps talking about it. But yeah, and lastly, this weekend, what do we got? UFC Fight Nights, and it is Vicente Luque versus Dos Anjos. I freaking hope that this is not at the Vegas. It doesn't say on Google here, but I hope it's not at the Performance Center. What do we got? We've got Vicente Luque and RDA. So this is a welterweight. RDA is 38 now. He's past his prime for sure, but he's still a great fighter. He's gonna for sure clinch and wrestle. But Vicente Luque he's got a 7 centimeter height advantage, and my God, he's got a 15 centimeter reach advantage. So he's got a big size and reach advantage here. And yeah, it's at the UFC Apex. Boo. So it's a smaller. He's probably gonna try and, you know, fight him at range. You know, maybe back RDA up to the fence. Keep that jab, keep that distance, and pick him off. But the UFC Apex is a smaller cage, so it makes it harder if your game plan is to stay long and rangy. But yeah, Vicente Luque 31. Let's have a look here. He was one fight away from a title shot before his last two losses. Lost to Bilal Muhammad, lost to Jeff Neal. The Jeff Neal fight he didn't look great in. He ate about 10 uppercuts in a row. And then before that, so he's coming off, he submitted Tyron Woodley, submitted Michael Chiesa. And then he beat? He beat Randy Brown, beat Nico Price. So a couple of good wins. In 2019, I think that's when he lost to Thompson, yeah. But beat Mike Perry. So he's beat Chiesa, and Woodley was past his prime. So that, yeah, I'm not going to give him a big one for that. But it'll be tough if he's never lost 3 in a row, Vicente. But if he can get a win here, it would be good. Put him back, you know, possibly to a 1 fight away from a title shot. If he loses here, well, he kind of drops out of that top 10 picture. And RDA is not going to be. I can't see RDA making a comeback at the title anytime soon. Even with a win here, but it should be fun. RDA is probably going to try and clinch him against the cage, hold him there, wrestle him, and probably take it to the ground. But yeah, we will see. We'll see how that one goes. Who else is on the fight? You've got Khalil Roundtree and Chris Daukaus at light heavyweight. Chris Daukaus is one of the worst fighters in the UFC, skill-wise. He's bad skill for a heavyweight, and now he's gone down to light heavyweight. Still looks fat as a fight. He's probably a welterweight, to be honest, but he just doesn't want to be disciplined enough to stay shredded. Khalil Roundtree he's got good leg kicks. He's big. He's full of muscle. He's thick, and he's got big power. So that's I think Khalil Roundtree will take that. Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. I'm not going to make too many comments about that because I know I've watched him fight, but I can't. I'd have to watch his fights again, Hakeem, to say anything. And Terrence McKinney's fighting on the prelims. Wow. He fought recently and lost recently, I believe. When did he fight most recently? Terrence McKinney, I really like him. He fought in July, 16th of July. That's less than that's a 4-week turnaround. Jesus Christ. He got submitted, I guess. We didn't take any damage. Terrence McKinney is a talented kid. He's a talented lightweight. He is fighting Mike Brindine. Yeah, that'll be okay. That'll be fun, I guess. Terrence McKinney's always exciting. He either gets finished or he finishes himself. He's got a bit to learn if he really wants to rank up to the top of that division, but he's exciting to watch. He's fun, and yeah, that's about it for that. I'm gonna stop this one here, I guess, because we're about 30 minutes in, 27. That'll do. And yeah, if you made it to the end here, thanks. I'm probably going to try and, because I got to boost this channel somehow. So I'm probably going to take clips of these and upload them as individual videos as well, just whatever I was talking about. But then obviously have the full video as a podcast to listen to if that's what you want to do. And I will look into, maybe when I get a few more listeners regularly, I'll look into putting it on a podcast platform so you don't need to put it on YouTube. But for now, that's what we're doing because I'm still learning the ropes here. I'm still getting the hang of it. And yeah, it's a learning curve for me. So that's it for me, from Fabian at MMA MAT Chat. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Do all that. Tell your friends. And I'll see you next time.